I guess if you don't experience bipolar disorder, it's very hard to understand like how that could feel. And I guess the best way I could describe it is it's like euphoric. Imagine having one of the best days of your life and you're in a super good mood and you're thinking, wow, this is amazing. I'm having a great day. My mood is great. Everything's great. Imagine that feeling times 10 and imagine that lasting for a couple weeks. Well, however long, different people experience different, lengths of time. That's what it feels like. It feels like you're in the best mood of your life. It feels like you're unstoppable. It feels like all of a sudden nothing's stopping you. You are determined, nothing's stopping you. I mean, when I'm like hypomanic, I am convinced I'm going to write a book. I am convinced I'm going to start a rock climbing gym, something that I've always come back to. I am convinced that I'm going to quit my job. Oh my gosh, the last episode I had was last year around this same time, and I went back to text messages. I might share them. I went back to text messages between my husband and I was like trying to convince him that we both should quit our job and get a van and live the van life. I was literally like, I'm sick of this, sick of corporate life, we can do it. And he was like, I don't know, babe. And I was like, stop thinking like that. Like, if you're thinking like that, we're never going to be able to do it. And the only thing that's holding you back is your mindset. And I was like on one about this van life. All of a sudden, you just get this idea or ideas in your head and nothing can convince you otherwise. And it's absolutely great for like being successful, but it doesn't last long. And then there's always a down that comes after the up. One thing I wanted to clarify is I struggle with bipolar 2, not bipolar 1. So if you might probably already know, but with bipolar 2, you don't get full manic episodes, you get hypomanic episodes. So they're a little bit, I would say they're more mild compared to your full-on mania, because with mania you can have psychosis and all other things. So recently, within the past couple weeks, I started feeling like something was a little bit off. Last night, it was like 11 something at night, and all I wanted to do was record this YouTube video, and I had to tell myself, is it smart for you to stay up late because you have a big week? Like, I have a really big week at work this week. Do I stay up late, make this YouTube video, and then spiral even further into what I believe could potentially be a hypomanic episode? I all of a sudden don't think I need my medication anymore. I've been on a mood stabilizer for about a year and a half, I think. And I'll just start feeling like God made me the way that I am. I don't need medicine. I'm fine without it. I'll be okay if I just stop. I can stop cold turkey without my psychiatrist, which do not ever do that. If you struggle with your mental health, please don't do that. It's very dangerous. So that's another sign that I'm about to have an episode. And then I start becoming like overly confident. So I will kind of act cocky or conceited, and my husband even calls me out on it sometimes, or he's like, where's this coming from? You're usually kind and sweet. Why are you being condescending? Why do all of a sudden you think you're better than everybody else? And it's sometimes there's triggers. For whatever reason, I have not been able to come up with an explanation for this. I genuinely don't know why, but in May is when I start feeling like I'm about to have an episode. So actually, I knew this was coming. So in April, I actually upped my dose in my medication because I knew that this was coming. But one thing about bipolar disorder is the medicine keeps everything at bay, but it's not going to resolve everything. Like, you still have to do the work to protect your mental health and to be making good decisions. Like, I could have stayed awake late last night, would have kind of made me spiral even further. One thing I was thinking about recently too, I read something that talked about, it was like research or something, where it was like when people are in a depressive state, when their mindset is in like a depressive state, they are more likely to remember things or think about past experiences where they were in a similar state. So it's almost like you're in an echo chamber almost, because if you're depressed and you don't feel mentally well, all of a sudden every other time in your life where you've been unwell, mentally unwell, and you've been depressed, like all those memories are going to come flooding back. And then it's kind of like a confirmation bias where you buy a new car and then all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. It's almost the same thing where it's like you're depressed and then you only see the depressed experiences that you've had in your life. But the same thing I believe is true for hypomania, because when I'm starting to feel like hypomanic or, you know, whatever, that's when I start reminiscing on the crazy times of my life. And one thing too is like, I want to get on this YouTube channel and I want to be so freaking honest, and I want to be like, oh, these are the things that I do when I'm hypomanic. But you have to realize there are so many reckless things and dangerous things that I'm not fully comfortable admitting on the internet just yet. Oh, like a few years ago, probably like, I guess it was like 4 years ago, I was in a relationship ish, and I took us to the city, and we were in the city, and I like blew all my money on this fancy hotel, and we went to this fancy bar, and we were like living it up, and we were doing all the things, and then we end up bar hopping, and then we end up taking a stranger home with us. And if you knew me and if you knew what I was like stable, that is so abnormal for me to just go out and just bring home a stranger. We didn't even bring the stranger home. We brought the stranger to our hotel room, like somebody that we had just met. And it's like, I'm surprised my partner went along with it, but it's just like things like that that's hard to admit, especially knowing that my friends or family could eventually come across this video. Like, I'm sure my family knows that I've struggled with my mental health, but they don't know all the crazy things I've done in and out, you know? And it's come in these spurts, and that's how I knew that something more was going on, because it was like, I'd be like, normal Courtney, pretty good decision maker, struggles, you know, with my mental health, whatever. And then I would just hit this spike of like poor decision making, overconfident. I mean, if you met me when I was hypomanic, you would think I was the most outgoing person. You would think that I was confident. But then if you met stable Courtney, you would think I was somewhat reserved, still could hold a conversation, but not superly or overly outgoing or anything. The difference is so night and day. It's a very hard thing to live with. It's very hard. You know, even when I'm stable, I sometimes wish that I could be hypomanic, but I wish that I could. It burns you out very quickly. It burns you out quickly. That's the problem. Also, when you're hypomanic, you're making poor decisions. Like I just mentioned earlier, when I brought a stranger home, as you can imagine, that impacted my relationship. So poor decisions that impact your relationship, that may seem fun at the time, that may seem like a good idea at the time, you know, oh, this is a great experience. Yeah, well, the great experience might last for a few hours, and then guess what? You got to live with it. You got to live with the people that you hurt. Imagine if last year, I just quit my job to go buy a van. Like, imagine what that would have done to my family or my husband. So it's not what it's cracked up to be. And a lot of people think like, oh, it's just you're moody. Even my family to this day, I'm 99% sure they think that being bipolar is just being moody. That's not it, bro. It's not it. I mean, maybe I do feel like I am prone to moody behavior sometimes, but that's not what bipolar disorder is. So anyways, on the other side of that is depression, which I've talked about on this channel. The last time I had a depressive episode was like December into February-ish, and it lasted for a couple months, and it was just like the opposite. It was, I wanted to lay in bed all the time. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't have any will to do anything extra in my life. It was like I was barely getting through the day. I couldn't concentrate. I was just in a bad mood all the time. I was miserable. I didn't think life was worth living. And then those feelings can just keep you in the cycle of like negative thought patterns. It's really, really hard to get out of. But again, my medication keeps everything at bay. It doesn't completely get rid of everything, but it keeps everything manageable. So it's a really tough thing to live with. There's so many people in my life who I have hurt with the decisions I've made. And when I start looking back on those times, like I reminisce on the good, crazy times that I've had with all these people, and the concerts and the parties and the this and the that and the this and the that. But a lot of times everything just kind of crashed and burned, and that's kind of been the story of my life. It's just crashed and burned. Trying to manage your mental health while working full-time is even more difficult. I've had to keep reeling it back in these days, especially this week. I'm like, please no, like now is not the time. This video was just like a long rant. I don't know. I hope it helps somebody who's feeling like this. there's so much misunderstanding out there of what it actually is. And I, on the outside, a lot of people that know me or that I've worked with, they probably would have no idea that I struggle with this stuff, because I try to manage it as best I can, and I try to keep it separate from work. But it's exhausting to also put on a fake face every day and pretend like, walk into work and pretend like my mind isn't racing with all these thoughts. Like, it is so hard for me to concentrate when I'm feeling like this, because all I can think about is writing a book, YouTube, starting a business, quitting my job, and starting a van life. With that being said, I'm going to end this here. And thanks for listening to me ramble. And if you struggle with this, I'm so sorry. I'm with you, actively in this with you. And we will get through it. I know we will get through it. I've been through this a million times. If I've done it before, I can do it again. But right now, it's one foot in front of the other. And right now, all I can do is make good decisions that are gonna help me get out of this quicker, versus making decisions that are gonna keep the cycle going. So, anyways, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and until next time, bye.